Very special episode.
A very special episode. Do 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 do. A few of my friends here. This episode is not so much dynamic specific. This is much more of maybe Josh's dad jokes realm than we're used to. So I'll start by introducing my two guests today, my two friends that will be perusing this topic with me, Josh Knox and Nate Clouse. Guys, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. It's wonderful to be here.
It's Bluey. Yeah, Bluey, the cartoon dog show. I actually thought it would be useful, since we're all Microsoft MVPs, to use Copilot to describe what Bluey is, maybe to start us off for the uninitiated. So I'll read that description to get us going here. Bluey's an Australian animated television series that premiered on October 1st, 2018, and it follows the adventures of Bluey, a 6-year-old blue heeler puppy who lives with her father Bandit, mother Chili, and younger sister Bingo. Bluey's known for her boundless energy, imagination, and curiosity about the world, and the series is praised for its depiction of modern family life, positive parenting messages, and the role of Bandit as a supportive father. So that's a big win for the three of us as dads, I guess, supportive fathers everywhere. Multiple award winner. You can catch this on Disney and Disney Plus here in the US, and it originally aired on the BBC. But big time on the television here in the Lensack household. I don't know about the two of you, but this thing has probably got more airtime than anything else in my house for the past few years. Nate, what about you? Why is it so popular in your family? Why does Bluey, I guess, strike a chord with either your kids or yourself?
It's more just the imaginative play that they do. They just make up games and find stuff to do or entertain themselves. And my kids are like, "Oh, I've never thought of that." So then they'll copy it. And like for a while, Keepy Uppy was a big deal in our house. That was that would be 45 minutes of just hitting a balloon around. But that was, the game would travel throughout the house, and those two were happy. So I'd be like, all right, this is great. They're not fighting over the TV, or they're just not fighting in general. And so then that, and my wife and I both liked the show, and it was fun for us to watch, fun for kids. So it just really stuck. And like right now, we're sort of on a lull. I think that's more just because it's summer and we're just outside. But yeah.
Which
just again, because I'm a novice, Keepy Uppy is a game in Bluey where they keep a balloon.
Try to keep the balloon up, right? You try not to let it hit the ground. It's a general theme of it, and obviously they exaggerate that, and it has lots of fun iterations throughout the show where it goes inside, it goes outside. It's very elaborate, right? But general theme is, yes, you have a balloon. You're trying not to let it hit the ground. Keepy Uppy.
I love it. Right? Very
Just like on projects, we sit there, we're juggling things, we're trying to keep stuff in the air. We're trying not to let things fall apart. Which very often you see the two parents of this show really fighting that battle and just managing children and all that comes with that. What I thought we could do is I have two episodes that I watched that I thought had pretty relevant themes that we see both in our everyday lives and in our careers that maybe we could talk to. I'll give quick synopsises of those, and then we'll see if we can draw some parallels into consulting, dynamics, parenting, whatever real themes or topics that can come out of it. But I thought both were really interesting and allowed me to reflect on my time as a consultant in my career and think about different things that they relate to. So the first one is called Promises, which, as you could likely imagine, is about the importance of promises. So the episode really starts off with Bluey, the older daughter, the main character of the show, breaking her promises. And after seeing how much Bingo, the younger sister, trusts the mom, Bluey throughout this episode learns the power of promises, why it's important not to break them. So I thought we could really, really delve into that. The funny part, I think, for parents, because I don't know about you guys, but my wife and I often have very knowing looks and sarcastic remarks when my son just says something that we find hilarious or very off key. So there's this part in the episode where Bluey does something wrong and makes some sort of promise to the dad, Bandit Healer, and Bandit seems like he's just going to go along with this. I trust Bluey. And the mom Chili looks at Bandit super frustrated and just goes, really? The kid who broke her promise to clean up the panda puzzle, just knowing that this child repeatedly either does not do what they promise and continues to happen, and now the dad just assumes something's going to change. Why is your past behavior that keeps on breaking these promises going to change at this point is Chili's view, when the dad is like, nope, trust Bluey, it's going to be better from here on out. So it really evolves from there. Even seconds later after this, Bluey was saying, well, you broke your promise, so I can break mine. So there's all these weird, interesting themes, right? Bluey's trying to learn the importance of promises, seeing that her parents sometimes break promises of what they're going to do. We're going to take you out for ice cream. We can go watch TV tonight. We can play this video game. And then take that back and says, well, if my parents aren't obeying their promises, why do I have to keep mine? And I think one that's really important for us as parents is reflecting what's promises. One, like using that word, understanding the importance of what really is a promise. Should I keep this versus, saying, hey, hey, Josh, I really understand you want to do this thing later. You want to go to the park and play catch, but we got to get our homework done, right? And parents really struggle with that balance because for kids, they've only lived a few years. Their experiences, these things are life-changing. We need to have this or my world's going to end, right? Where with us, we know it's going to blow over 10 minutes later. So I thought as parents, one, that's an interesting view. Kids trying to learn how to keep promises and then understanding what's a promise versus just what's maybe like a low-level commitment or something somebody said. And then also at work, in my role as a consultant, as a manager, as just a person on a project, what are my true commitments? What do I need to abide by? And what's more, maybe just a guiding lesson. So for me, that's really funny because just right now, Josh, you mentioned being in the summer, kids want to do everything. They want to go to the water park. They want to go to the regular park. They want to play sports. They want to go to the movies. They want to stay up all night. And we have to balance, I guess, what we can promise them. Does anything about maybe the synopsis of that episode strike you when it comes, Josh, to either your role as a consultant or, your relationship with your two boys?
Oh, geez, yeah, trust and promises, both in consulting and in parenting. I mean, like sometimes the simple lessons, right, are like the most important ones, right? Just honesty, openness, trust. Like these are big ideas, and of course they're important. I think, like in the parenting context, yeah, I guess we try as hard as we can to keep our promises to our kids. One thing that I've tried to do is try to distinguish between like intentions and commitments. And I think commitments are something that you can commit to. But like you can have intentions, which is like, I want to do this. We are trying to do this, but somehow an intent, being able to distinguish between an intention, the good thing that we're trying to do, and the commitment, the thing that we will do come hell or high water. I think that makes a big difference. Switching from the parenting hat to the working consulting hat, establishing trust with your customers is like the most important thing that you can do, like as a consultant, right? But that trust has to be earned. It's earned just like in the Blue example, it's earned by consistently doing what you say you're going to do. Creates a trusting relationship. And when you consistently don't do, things are consistently late, or you're not hitting milestones, it gives, right, nobody can have any trust that you're going to hit the future milestones. And that's frequently when you get into a hard place in consulting, in these consulting projects, because right, a project is just a big plan of things, and you need to be able to hit the goals, hit those milestones, or set reasonable goals that you can hit. So it works both ways. But yeah, trust is paramount, I think, both in parenting and in consulting.
So as the Bluey novice, Josh, you picked up on Bluey or not, you pick up on the relationship between promises and trust. And later in the episode, near the end, maybe the key quote of the episode is, "If there's no trust, none of this is possible." So at the end, when things turn around and everyone's aligned, that's the big reveal. So obviously, that I agree with you. I think, with clients, whether you work for a partner or as an independent, or you're trying to get a job as an end user, the biggest thing is trust in you're going to be able to do the job you were hired to do and hold up your end of the bargain. And that's something we all struggle with. I think maybe Nate, you might see this in a slightly different way, operating on the technical end in a lot of ways. Is there's this whole translation that has to happen between saying I want to do X and that requiring some sort of technical solution where you have to go build X, and bridging the gap in between what was promised or communicated and what can actually be delivered. What's the biggest thing from maybe a promise or commitment or communication standpoint in that relationship, from client has a problem they want you to solve as a developer or as a technical architect or just a consultant or a solution? What's the biggest piece there? What are you looking for as someone to take that information from the customer and return to them a design or a solution?
Sort of like what Josh was saying. Like when we are presented with a problem, we want to, like, first we have to start with a problem. Sometimes we get solutions. Like, here, build this solution. And well, what is my problem that I'm solutioning? Like what problem am I solving with this solution I've been given? So, thinking of, let's trust that, our, in a technical context, that our developers are going to deliver a solution that solves our problem. But, letting people, that design those solutions, like in the technical realm, trust that they'll come up with a good solution that works most of the time. So the number we sort of strive for is 99.99%. That's not absolute 100. Absolute 100 is just not possible. So when you talk about like promises, like from the tech side, can we promise 100%? Unfortunately not. But we can get as close to that number as possible. And really, like, I wanted to sort of dovetail on what Josh was saying. Like when like for my kids, like we'll promise stuff, but it's usually promise with some kind of strings attached. So like, I promise we'll go to get ice cream tonight if, you do this, this, and this. Well, if this, and this get done at 9:30, that's a bit past the time when we can reasonably go get ice cream. So we'll say, okay, well, this took too long. We'll get ice cream tomorrow. Promise is still maintained, but circumstances changed. And I think that ties into, like, again, with the project plan. Sometimes, like recently had a client who had to deal with a hurricane in the middle of the project that derailed some things. That's not anything that anyone has control over. Just stuff changes, but promises are maintained. But the underlying circumstances for them change. And I try and relay that to my kids that sometimes stuff happens that we don't have control over. We're still gonna maintain our promises and commitments, but stuff changes, and we just have to deal with it. But again, that goes back to just talking through it. Saying this was a promise. Some stuff changed. We're going to honor it, and we're going to do that tomorrow or the next day. And really, when it comes to like back to work, you just have to trust that tech people will come up with a good design. And it's, like, this happens a lot. You can challenge tech people and say, like, what what happens when this scenario occurs? We'll say, oh, well, I didn't quite think of that. We're going to have to design a solution or redesign for that thing. And it's just a dialogue around, what we're looking for at the end, and where we are now and how we're going to get there.
And I agree. It is a dialogue, right? I think keeping that open communication versus just hearing something once, going away for weeks, months, and then saying, here you go, and assuming it's all going to stick together is not the right approach. I think this talks to a lot of, how we as partnerships between partners and clients, Microsoft and clients should write ourselves, right? Being open and honest about what the level of work and effort is, having contingency plans for when things go wrong, being able to be trusted advisors in saying, what should you do now versus what should you do a year from now, and coming up with a mutual plan you can all commit to and hopefully promise to, knowing that, yeah, things can go wrong, whether it's weather, whether it's, the stock market, commodities, whatever could happen that could derail our industry, derail our project. We have a partnership with clear communication and commitments from both sides. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. The end of the episode with the no trust, none of this is possible quote is the big crescendo is Bingo hanging off the jungle gym and being too scared to fall, but Chili promising her that she'll be okay and catching her, and then everyone rejoicing and being happy that they all, I guess, kept their promises. But yeah, I think for every day, right? Pre-sales, already being on projects in delivery, maintaining relationships after we get customers live. If there is no trust, it all kind of starts to fall apart. I think that's a repeated theme in the show. Yes, this episode specifically, but I think that the parents, especially, one of the things that's constant through the show is they try to reflect that, they're not just figures of authority in these kids' lives. It is a dialogue between Bingo, Bluey, and the parents, and how should this relationship work? What are the things we need to do as a team to maintain and organize a household and all be happy and get the chores done and do our jobs correctly and all those things. So I thought it was one that was really interesting when comparing it to our projects. The last thing I think to note on this episode that stood out to me in terms of being really clear in your promises and in your communication is Bandit asked Bluey if she could just carry 2 more books. Just get these books out of here in this episode. And you hear 2 books, not a big ask, right? And then Bluey walks up to them, and they are the most enormous encyclopedia books you will ever see, right? As heavy as like 10 or 15 other books. So it's a little bit tongue in cheek of the dad saying, yeah, just go. This is all you have to do, and not really properly quantifying what those 2 books really is, the level of effort for Bluey to get those out of the room and keep her promise about cleaning up. And she did it begrudgingly. She did it. She was not happy about it, but she did keep her promise. So it was kind of really two lessons in one short scene. One, don't mislead people with, crappy comments like just it only takes this, when really completely misquantifying the effort or strain that will take. And then 2, Bluey knowing it would take a lot of work, but holding up her promise to her parents to do the cleanup that she required to get the prize or the whatever it was she wanted at the end of the day. So an interesting scene for sure, as both a parent and maybe somebody who has to abide by commitments for their clients and not mislead them like we often hear that pre-sales does. So I liked that one for sure.
But one thing I wanted to point out that, like, I don't know, really spoke to me as just a reminder is that sort of trust is a journey. And I know that sounds very cliche to say, but when Bandit was just going to give Bluey another chance, even though she'd just broken a promise right before that, the sort of just a reminder to give people another chance. Like, people have busy lives, so sometimes, they drop something, and keep on giving people chances until they've sort of shown that they can't be trusted or can be trusted, but it doesn't. It's not it's not an on or off switch where you can trust this person or you can't trust this person. It's a gradient based on whatever they have going on in their lives, or just however they present themselves professionally or otherwise. And that was one of the things that I took from that episode. Because like at the end, at the crescendo you were talking about, Bluey saw that Chili was there for Bingo.
Chili's the mom, right?
Yeah, sorry, Chili's the mom. And I it took me a while to remember that, so it's been like 3 weeks since we watched an episode, actually. But yeah, and that just sort of shows that, again, it's a journey, but you can show your promises, and just that commitment, and that was sort of the thing at the end, and that was just what spoke to me, because sometimes I'll be a little critical of just people not meeting stuff they said that they would.
Deadlines, yeah. Quality that you expected, whatever it may be.
But just a reminder that always give people another chance. Unless they're very undeserving of one, but that's very, very rare.
Well, and you saw it from multiple characters, like that scene you pointed out, right? And I mentioned what Chili said before. Chili herself had to grow in the episode. She said, but Bluey broke her promise because it was a panda puzzle. Now you expect her to keep this promise. And Bandit kept saying, like, yeah, she can. And Chili eventually said, let me give Bluey that extra chance. You always want to make sure, I think, you understand, right, the circumstances. I think often we're remote and some of these projects are huge and there's tons of people and somebody just missed a task and it can be so easy to write them off, like, oh, that was simple, that was an easy thing, why didn't they get this done, and have no clue what's going on, what other projects they're on, what's going on in their life. If this wasn't even a priority task, like, was it their fault, right? I think you're right. We need to give a little bit of grace and credence to each other to allow some space to offer up why maybe something didn't get done on time, and give them that chance to hold up their commitment or their promise.
I think the other side of that too is the thing that I think about, thing that I learned in my consulting journey. Trust is a journey, consulting is a journey. I think about being proactive about giving bad news. I think, right, it's easy to be open and honest when you're giving good news. And, oh yeah, we're ahead of schedule. Yeah, we're doing great. Yeah, the things are done. It's hard to be proactive about things that you're concerned about, or you say, oh, like, I'm scared we're not going to hit this deadline because of this reason, or I can't do this thing, because it could be something project related, or there's something in my personal life that is limiting me. I think at the start of my career, I thought it was really important to just press all that stuff down. And, I've got things going on in my own life and it's important. I'll just keep that all to the side and just do my best regardless. I think, especially as a young consultant or consultant, opening up and expressing the things that are going on in your life, helping other people that you're working with understand the different things that you are juggling. I think that can be helpful in terms of setting expectations, right? Because we say, oh, we're going to try and do this in a week. There's, of course, a lot of uncertainty in that. And the more that you can communicate along that path to the completion of something, I think it makes it easier for people to give you grace when you, let's say, don't hit this goal, because they will already have been informed, like, yes, we might not be hitting this goal because of this thing. It's just communication, right? Just open communication, I think, builds a lot of trust, whether or not we're executing as well as we'd like.
Yeah, there's nothing clients hate more than slapping them with a change order and no explanation of why it happened and what the cause was and what you're going to do to remedy it. So I completely agree. Maintaining that openness is a priority for sure. So switching gears, the next episode I wanted to talk about is it's probably a fun one for the three of us, just because it's generational, right? Technology shifts. Every generation has these huge technology shifts, and as the younger generations start to view the older ones trying to adopt it or learn it, it's always quite hilarious. So there's this episode called Phones where Granddad comes to visit and is playing with Bluey and Bingo, and Bluey and Bingo want to play restaurants, but it's a little bit different than he's used to. So he's going to need to order his food through an app, which is not something Granddad has ever used. Granddad, not with a phone, not with a tablet, not with any of this. So this episode is really interesting. I don't know if change management's a good place to start or co-pilot's a good place to start, but I think the shift in, hey, this person is now a fish out of water, right? Person in a new town, you have to deal with this change and adopt these policies. What are the biggest things you guys see in your projects? Is co-pilot the biggest change people are fighting with, or are people still trying to figure out what's the best methodology? What are the big either technology or social or project shifts that are challenging either you all or your customers right now? Maybe Nate, we'll start with you this
time. Sure. So it's not actually any of the really big tech stuff. It's really the basics. So I have clients that go from some very old system to something new that's in the cloud and has a lot more capabilities, and it's all stuff they didn't know that they could do. Like to the ordering food on a phone, like for Granddad there, and there's a lot of just um, skepticism and some fear and just a lot of emotions for people to work through. Where it's like, like, oh, we can have our payroll system just send payroll info over, and then there's a journal, and I just have to approve it. I don't have to export something to Excel, massage it, put it into some other thing, and upload it, and then make some changes inside the system. I can now just have a journal show up, and I post my GL, my payroll to my GL, like stuff like that, which is for us perfectly every day. Like that's um, ordinary.
Do you think that's just because they have a day job and realizing those things are out there and learning about them are far away? Is it a lack of education from partners and Microsoft? Why do you think the biggest thing sometimes for customers is just learning, hey, there's this new way of doing things, even if they're coming from legacy dynamics, right? Oh my God, there's this huge shift in AP invoicing or something from 2012 to D365. Do you think there's some sort of driver in that from what you've seen, Nate?
I think it's just I think yeah, it's just, this is the routine day to day. This is just what the process is. And not that people aren't necessarily interested, it's just that's what the process is in that system for whatever that is, whether it's legacy or not. Just it's comfortable. So why change it or why try and change it? Or they're just from a legacy perspective, it's just like if you're looking at an AS400 or older, that system is going to stay that way until it's no longer a system anymore. You're not changing it because like there's a lot that goes into that. So there's um, just that, but also like we keep up on tech because that's sort of our jobs. So when I don't expect people outside of this world to pay a lot of close attention to this stuff other than like there's marketing like releases from Microsoft where we have this new thing, this, that, or whatever it may be, but that doesn't dive into the details of like, oh, with this new cloud stuff we've got these things called logic apps that can shuffle data from here to there, and automate some of the tedious data entry type tasks. Like I don't expect people to be interested in that because that when I break it down like that, that's a pretty boring and dry topic. But there's a lot of new stuff that people don't know about. Like even when we're talking about paper-based forms, like you can, you know, um, take a scan of something, like some very small customer can fill out a form, email it in, and then that get turned like email that scan in, and then something read it and turn that into an order. Like there's a lot of just new stuff that people don't even know exists. And they say, hey, it'd be cool if we could do this. I'm like, well, we can. That's just over there. We just have to sort of figure out some of the plumbing, and we can do it now.
So Josh, I know you work a lot on the finance side. Nate, the topic just that Nate gave, right? Reading an invoice, taking it in, being able to do these approvals, it changes the day to day. It minimizes some steps that maybe an AP clerk or somebody would normally have to do. From like a change aspect as a consultant, do you sense fear from resources saying like, oh, this shifts in technology, you're going to put me out of a job, or I need to figure out what my skill set is now appropriate for? Or do you sense any sort of shifts in that aspect because of some of these new technologies?
The new technology of right now is AI stuff, and I feel like the new technology of, I mean, I don't know what the right date is, right? But say 10 years ago, right, everything was transitioning to the cloud, and right, there's always just some new technology that's getting integrated into these big systems. There's always some sort of a cutting edge, and so I don't think like this moment is any different than the consulting that we've always been doing. I think
this isn't the dawn of a new era.
Yeah, well, perhaps it is the dawn of a new era. This just happens to be this new era instead of that other new era. I think always, right. Why are our customers upgrading to a new system, right? Because it is better and has more features, etc. And so there's always this push and pull between people that we work with at our customers who are used to the old way that the thing was, and sort of learning about how to take advantage of whatever these newest features are. So I think that's always sort of a push-pull struggle, right, between elements of the, I don't know if the right axis is like comfort and progress or something like that. But there's basically you have to be able to do all of the basic stuff in the new system. You have to be able to do all the stuff that you did in the old system. And then there's also more. And I think that becomes part of the tension is how do you satisfy kind of all of the old things? I guess I don't, this phones episode, again, I'm a Bluey novice. I don't really know what happens in it, but like, so basically Grandpa's just not great at using a phone app. Is that the
very flustered with this whole app of how do we order food? What do I hit? What's even possible with this app? All the things, right?
That sounds a lot like me, right? I feel that way when I order off of a phone app.
You have the Zach Morris cell phone. You can't even use apps on yours.
So I think it sort of cuts two ways, right? Because there's new stuff and new technology, but you also have to build these user experiences that are friendly to the people that are using the stuff. And just because you are sort of inundated, like Blue and Bingo, right? If you've grown up in this thing, you have one perspective, right? So as consultants, we are on this cutting edge of this thing, and we have one perspective. And then when you start trying to build these experiences for people that sort of aren't coming at this with the same context, I think you have to be aware of those people as you build your user experiences. And it's important as you're creating user experiences that you create ones that are friendly, and that there's training and support so that people can get skilled up and learn how to take advantage of these things. So I think that that transition of sort of bringing people along into this new paradigm is a big part of the implementation itself.
I think it's a good call out, right? Because we can draw parallels, whether we're creating a power app, we're creating a commerce site, we're designing in the warehouse mobile app, we're doing whatever, right? That UI is really important. It's got to be simple to use. It's got to be intuitive. We as consultants are very often biased by what we know either in standard or what we've seen on other implementations, and not thinking about, no, who is the person actually using this tool and this solution, and what do they need to do, and what makes sense to them. I remember I was on a project a few years ago, and we were designing production interfaces, custom production interfaces for an organization that manufactured food. So a lot of it was integration with scales and integration with the WMS solution, and 60-70% of their workforce also didn't speak English. So it had to have translation built into it. So no matter who the worker is using the tool, they could easily read it. It had to have logos and buttons that were made sense, that were easy to use, that could scale to Nate being on a tablet, you being on a laptop, me being on, some other system. So there was a lot of things in that user experience, in that shift in technology, shift from their legacy old platform on other technology to this new HTML5 based solution, that was touchscreen and all this stuff. So I think that's a really important point and parallel you draw, Josh. I think that's something we see on every project, no matter really maybe what the full scope is. So you had a fun idea, Josh, where I think you stole some Bluey memes that were popular that you did not understand at all. And you thought you would run those by Nate. And I don't know if I'm describing this remotely correctly, but maybe you can tell us the game we wanted to play to see how well we can do here.
These are a few photos that I found that are Bluey related, and I don't know the best way to share them. But I was hoping that maybe you guys could explain to me what's happening in these photos. So the first photo I'm going to share, it's a family photo. I guess it's Halloween related, but what's taking place in this photo?
So this is Nate. This seems like the Bluey family, right? So we have the mom dressed as a chili pepper, and Bluey's mother is named Chili. The dad looks like an old-timey crook to represent Bandit. The younger child with a bingo board on their chest, and then a big blue E on the older child. So I think this is the Healer family right here.
Yep. So we've got a Chili, Bandit, a bingo, and a blue E, Bluey.
So Bandit is the dad, Chili is
Bandit
the mom.
Is the dad. Yeah. So before
the little kid wearing a bingo board is Bingo, who's the little sister.
The little sister. Yep.
And then Bluey actually is the letter E that is blue, and this is creative family.
So Josh, just by random guess, do you think you could come remotely close into guessing what Chili and Bandit's jobs are? Because this was something as an avid watcher I forgot and had to look up recently, and I don't know, just an instant bit of trivia.
I had thought that Bandit was like a stay-at-home dad. And then I assumed that the mom was maybe a VP of like a Big Four accounting firm or something like that.
That's amazing.
What are they?
Nate, do you know?
So Bandit is like an archaeologist.
He's an archaeologist.
What?
Which is
that's gainful
which is such an amazing job.
In New Zealand?
It's like what my son wants to be, which is great. Yeah, I can't remember how often they even allude to this or say this in the episode, but yes, Bandit is an archaeologist.
And then Chili, like she works for I want to say the Australian version of our TSA or something very similar to that.
Yep, she's like part-time airport security or something.
So I want to share with you guys, this is another image that I clipped related to Bluey. It's from the Bluey Reddit, and whoever posted this said, "This is why I watch Little Gems for the Parents." And I don't know who the two dogs in this are or what's happening in this little screenshot. Can you guys explain this one to me, or why this would be a little gem?
So as I guess not the owner isn't the right word, but as someone who's married to me, and my wife had to deal with my mom. So mother, this is basically the mother-in-law joke this is funny. So what's going on in this is the older dog with pink glasses that is want to say that is Bandit's mom.
I think that's Bandit's mom.
Yeah, and then the younger dog is Trixie. That is Bandit's brother's wife. What's Bandit's brother's name? Well, it's Bandit's brother.
It's got a few.
Okay. Brothers or names?
Well, because there's Rad.
There's Uncle Rad and Aunt Frisky. Chris Healer is this one, which is Chris is the Nana. So Nana in this that just sent us. Is this? There's Aunt Brandy. What might be the other one you're thinking of?
Yeah, but there's the one brother who's sort of a jerk. Because Rad is the cool one. Bandit is the
Uncle Stripe.
Stripe, yeah.
Uncle Stripe.
So this is Stripe's wife, Trixie, or they just call her Trix. And so the grandma is basically like, so like the text here is, say the grandma's saying, "Oh, Trix, I can do gravy if you like." And then Trixie says, "Oh, I'm fine, Chris. I've just got some packets." And then the grandma says, "Oh no, well let's make a proper one, make a proper gravy," which is just a mother-in-law being sort of an overbearing mother-in-law to, her kids, her son's wife.
So Josh, according to Copilot, there has been an increase in the popularity and adoption of blue heelers, also known as Australian cattle dogs, since Bluey began, because of the positive portrayal of the breed.
Okay, well, Copilot would know.
Yeah, that cartoon is very positive about blue heelers, so people love them.
So Nate, if I was to put this Bluey cartoon into dynamics terms, would this be like the grandma saying, "Oh, Trix, I will make maybe a custom import button if you like," and she says, "Oh no, I'm fine. I have an Excel add-in." And she says, "Oh no, let me do a proper one." Am I capturing the spirit of this gravy thing?
That's a really good analogy. I guess my thing was more in the process where, like a process related thing where it's just like, oh, we'll just do it the same way we always have. Just that's where my brain went with it, because that's like when we have a new system, we have all kinds of new ways to do stuff, and then we just sort of there's just the gravity to just defaulting to the way we've always done it and moving on.
So I've got one last image or thought for you guys, right? There's another screenshot of Bluey.
Oh, Bob's Burgers thrown in there.
And it's a Bluey Bob's Burgers crossover. And somebody posted this to Reddit. It just says cold hard facts.
I mean, this one that speaks for itself.
Bluey opening screen, right?
Bluey
Bob
screen.
From Bob's Burger. I guess this is its own sort of meme, right? And Bob from Bob's Burgers says, "I mean, I don't want to oversell it, but it changes you forever." And I think this is a nice place to close. How do you guys feel about Bluey? Has it indeed changed you guys?
It's for me, it's a better or a more fun reminder of the things we should cherish as parents and the things I could do better as a father than the normal ways of hearing it, which is like your parents telling you you're doing a crappy job, or the fact that your kid's crying, right? Like those reminders are tough. They hit you at the heart. Bluey's it's a less intrusive, less negative effect way of, hey, maybe that thing, that slight argument I had with my kid, or I didn't let him read a book before bed last week. Was that the best way to deal with it? It might have felt right in the moment, but long term, was it the best way? And I think those types of lessons it's really, really good at. And I'll often find myself, the best part for me was my son started to watch this show a lot around the time my daughter was born, which is when I was very fortunate to have a lot of time off at work and really just hang out with them and just be a dad and sit with them. So both watching the show and learning lessons from the show and just kind of owning the moment, being in the moment as a dad with them, which is not something we always get, right? Like in America, it's always been, we had maternity leave. One of the cool things about the past few years is I was able to go on extended leave as a dad when my daughter was born. And I think just having that kind of constant reminder of the things that are most important and learning from those lessons, because you learn a lot when you're a new parent, right? In those first few years. And having a daughter, you both are fathers of boys. My first child was a boy. Switching to a daughter's a whole new different ball game. So you're either relearning the same lessons or learning new ones all over again. Which Bluey, with a show with two daughters, even though it's dogs and not humans, I think has a lot of fun lessons that I was able to learn from, for sure.
Cool.
And then for me, I mean, like my dad worked a lot when I was, so I'm the youngest of four. So like, in terms of like, this was just normal. Like in terms of effort that that my parents put in for my first, like my oldest brother, he was in all the sports. Then my next brother, he was in some of the sports. Then my sister was in one sport. They got to me, and they're just like, nah, that's fine. But my
all
dad
our money's gone.
Yeah, I mean, my dad had to work a lot when I was younger. So like one of the things that I really liked about the show is just sort of teaches you how you play with your kids. And I know that sounds dumb, but it's just fun ways to do stuff with your kids. And like Keepy Uppy is just hitting a balloon around. But I mean, it's not something I would have thought to do because I'm sort of always in work mode because we've got phones that we have to always sort of keep an eye on. And just as an aside, I mean, Bluey is one of those shows where they deliver the different jokes for different groups at the same time. So when like your kids are laughing, you're laughing, but it's for very different reasons. And they just have perfected that art form, so you never have to explain like a secondary meaning to your kids. They get it at face value and just move on, which is great.
Appreciate you both being here. Anything you guys want to plug or talk about? You're going to both be at Summit this fall in Texas. Yes, no?
Yeah, I'll be at Summit. I've got I think 4 sessions plus a roundtable.
Busy man.
Yeah, so I'm actually got a lot of co-presenters. So I'm presenting with Peter, fellow MVP, Alex, fellow MVP, Kelly, fellow MVP. So a lot of good content from
Josh and I weren't cool enough to be invited, I guess, to those sessions.
I think I proposed them, but they didn't get picked up. The only call out, I know Alex won't listen to this, so Alex and I are doing a Star Wars themed thing.
He's too busy being on other podcasts to listen to it, let's be honest.
So I'm co-presenting with Alex, and the joke there is you can just rent cosplay actors for Star Wars. So I'm just going to rent some people to follow Alex around for a day, and he'll have no idea because I'm not going to let him in on the joke.
I like it. I like that a lot. Josh,
yeah, well, I have one session at Summit. I feel like something of an underachiever now that Nate's talked about his, but yeah, it's a session on sort of data and these ERP implementation projects in general, and how do we do our best to get all the data in the right way.
It's not Star Trek themed.
I don't have a catchy hook. People will just have to come on the raw merit of my materials.
MVP of Excel and AI ERP right there. I'll also be there. I'm doing one solo session, and I think I'm doing a roundtable. So doing demand planning in Dynamics 365, the new app, and then I think I'll be joining maybe one or both of you on some sort of FNSC roundtable. Not sure, but looking forward to it. Excited to see you guys. It's been a bit, so it'll be fun doing this in person. But thank you both for your time today.
Can't wait.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
All right. Keep watching Bluey, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go blow up a balloon. Bye.